Primary ignition.
This is the way. This is the way. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome back to yet again another episode of Mando Talk. I am your host, as always, Caleb Keller, and joining me this week is none other than DJ Foster at Rebel Scum Texan. How are you doing this week, sir?
I am pumped.
There you are. There you are.
I am pumped. I knew it. I got it. I was there. I am pumped to just be back in the saddle again. I'm so that's two 80s references in like 2 weeks for me on this show. No, I am so happy to be here. It's been a good day. I've had a total 180 from where I was last Tuesday. So knowing that I'm just kind of here and ready to roll, it's just like, I'm just excited. I'm just having a good day, and I'm really stoked about the show we got for us tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we got a loaded show on this short week, and speaking of that short week, because it's Thanksgiving week here, so happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. We're thankful on this Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for all of the listeners that we have out there, so thank you so much, and continue to share us, like the video, subscribe to our channel, do what you got to do to get us out there. We would greatly appreciate it. But speaking of that, since Thanksgiving is this Thursday, we will not be having our Boba festivities on Thursday. We're going to take Thursday off to celebrate that holiday and take a little bit of a break, much needed break, much deserved break. But I can't wait for this week's episode. I mean, we got a lot of news pieces to hit, a lot of cool things to discuss, and shout out to Jordan Gent in the chat saying, yo, 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 what's up? It's good to have you back. Rural Farm Boys here. What's up? He says, got my boys covered, and we got Brody in the chat as well saying, what's up as well. So good to see all those people out there. Let's go ahead and do this. DJ, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do this thing. Like we always do with our news pieces, we got some big ones that we're going to discuss in detail, but we got some announcements that we're going to make real quickly. And the first one is this: Dark Horse Comics will be producing a brand new line of all ages comic books for the Star Wars franchise. These stories will range from the High Republic to the sequel trilogy. The source on this is Screen Rant. I would say this is pretty legit, and we will probably see this transpire. Dark Horse Comics created a lot of cool comic books back in the past. Star Wars made a new deal with Marvel to where that they had the exclusive rights, but now it's coming back to Dark Horse Comics on some of them. DJ, what are your thoughts on this news piece?
Well, I remember the first ever Star Wars comic I got was a Dark Horse comic. It focused on Ki-Adi-Mundi, the cone-headed shaped Jedi Master from the Council, and I really enjoyed that as a kid, and I hadn't had a comic until the Disney acquisition again. Yeah. So it's kind of nice to hear that these things are coming back full circle in one sense or another. And you know, it makes me question maybe if there's something wrong with the Marvel stuff, or maybe they're just trying to get more content out there through different brands and companies or whatnot. Who knows? You know, either way, though, in my opinion, more Star Wars content, the better. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if it's High Republic sequel trilogy. I don't even care if it's Legends at this point. Give me the Star Wars content. Those are my quick thoughts on it. I think that's enough for me on that. Yeah,
no, I 100% agree. I got nothing else to say. You said it perfectly. So, DJ, what's our next announcement?
This one is one of those that made me upset, but we'll try to keep it quick and not so spicy because we got some good stuff to go through here in a bit. But EA has they shelved DICE's pitch for a Battlefront 3. Our source on this is the Bespin Bulletin, and Caleb, what are your quick thoughts on this?
Well, for me personally, I am a huge fan of the Battlefront franchise that they got going. I really enjoyed EA's Battlefront. I enjoyed Battlefront 2. But I have to say, although I really want a Battlefront 3, I'm kind of tired of the behind-the-scenes chaos of EA having Star Wars Battlefront. So in a sense, I'm bummed of this. But in a sense, I'm not. Like, I'm ready to get some other Star Wars games and kind of maybe get away from EA handling Battlefront. Would you agree?
I would agree to a certain extent. Okay. I really liked how they shifted gears after the initial release of Battlefront 2 and not doing the microtransactions and all that. I know a lot of video game fans hate that, if not all of them, if we're being honest. But for me, I'm glad that they did that and move forward. I wish they would go ahead and do Battlefront 3. And along with this news, I think I read something else this week that said that they had plans for a new phase of heroes, and those two heroes, or villain, I should say hero and villain, was going to be Ahsoka Tano and Asajj Ventress, which
big deal.
That's huge. Those are two major characters from the Clone Wars. And the fact that they were like, all right, you're done. Not only are we shelving your next project, but we're also saying, you know what? The fans, they don't even need that. It's kind of how it feels. It feels like it's shoved away. So I'm upset that that's kind of how it went, because I've been telling people like people who actually play Battlefront, friends of mine, they're like, man, I would love it if they got some new heroes and characters. And I'm like, they need to put Ahsoka and Asajj, and then that's where we need to go. And that would be a good balancing the scales as far as who they have and who they don't. And that's kind of the deal. They always added a hero and a villain. Those were always, very in sync. So it was very balanced. And, that's what I'm kind of the most upset about.
Yeah. Well, just real quickly, and then we'll move on. But correct me if I'm wrong. EA is done updating Battlefront 2, correct? Like they're not doing any new additions to it.
No, they announced that a while back. I don't know if it was earlier this year or late 2020 or not, but they did announce they were done doing those updates, which was kind of a bummer because a lot of the things they were doing were great. The different clone variants, even other variant, appearances in emotes and everything else. I mean, it was all good stuff. So it kind of sucks in a sense that it's gone away, but I guess we'll just wait for the next thing and hope that somebody else will pitch Battlefront 3 and it becomes a big deal down the road somewhere.
Yeah, certainly hope so. All right, our next announcement here is Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett's coming soon. We got 2 Empire magazine covers that have been revealed for promotional material for that show of the Book of Boba Fett, with more details of this magazine, I believe, coming like later this week. But I mean, they've been given teases of the news piece and the article and the interviews that they have inside this Empire magazine all throughout this week. I believe this is going to be fully released, though, pretty soon, so keep an eye on that. But there are 2 new images out there of Boba Fett on the cover of Empire, so go check those out. Also, I think today Empire released an official image of the Book of Boba Fett. You can find that online. You can find that on Mando Talk's Twitter, at Mando Talk. I retweeted that image, so go check that out if you have not done so. But that's really all that's to say about this news piece. Is we got some new Boba Fett looks, and other than that, I'll just plug, Boba Festivities. We'll be back with Boba Festivities next Thursday, where I believe we're going to discuss the next Season 2 chapter that Boba Fett shows up in The Mandalorian. I can't remember what episode that is, but nonetheless, we'll be talking about it. DJ, what were your thoughts on the Empire images, and anything else you want to say about Boba Festivities before we finally get to our main topics?
Yeah, I really like anytime these kind of magazine covers come out. I always tell myself, I'm going to pick this magazine up. And I've picked up exactly one magazine.
There you go. I'm the same way.
Since 2015. But I do have a magazine for like the official guide to The Force Awakens. So I've held on to that one because it's really cool. And actually I have this is kind of sidebar, but I have a Time magazine from 1999 that has Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and little Anakin played by Jake Lloyd on the cover, and it's got a guide to the Phantom Menace inside of it. And the wackiest thing about it is that on the inside front cover is an ad for Apple computers, which are the really colorful computers. Remember when we were kids? Yeah. So that's kind of the wacky thing for me. It's like, oh, okay. If you forget about them and you see it and you're like, all right. But no, I love looking at these magazine covers every time they release them. I think it's exciting and it's really cool. So I do think that this one will be really special. So I'm going to try in some form or another to try to grab it and see. It's just to have it,
I want to say I want to say there's info about like the future projects that's going to be inside this magazine as well. And RFB in the chat saying that the Empire magazine is set for a January release, as he understands, which that is certainly possible. I may have overlooked that. So regardless, I agree with you, DJ. It's something that I definitely want to check out. Can't wait to get my hands on it potentially, but I also just can't wait to get all the images that Empire always has when it comes to their exclusive articles that they cover. So It's out there. Go check that out if you have not done so. Okay, those are our announcements. You let us know what you think of those 3 things. Dark Horse Comics getting some Star Wars comic book material coming out, EA shelving Battlefront 3, and then those Empire Magazine covers. What did you think about those? Let us know in the chat or let us know in the comments if you are watching on the playback. All right, DJ, we are now ready for our main topics of this week's episode of Mando Talk. DJ, you got the first one. What is that first one?
I'm going to grab something really quick.
Okay. What you grabbing?
We're talking dark side. All right. So I'm not upset.
Always.
If we're talking dark side, I've got to wear.
Listeners, he's got his Darth Vader helmet on.
Yes.
His cap.
If you don't own a Darth Vader helmet, you need to get one. But because it makes your life a little happier, amongst other reasons. Because sometimes you can just, be playing video games. No, I don't do that. Some of y'all are watching like he definitely does that. No, I promise I don't. But let's get on to our topic because we are talking about the Acolyte.
Yes.
The Acolyte will begin filming in May of 2022. Fingers crossed nothing goes wrong. Ahsoka in March of 2022. Andor is also listed in this report to go into production from the Production Weekly. This was an interesting one to come across and find. I was kind of shocked and surprised when this announced. I was just like, okay, all right. And I totally missed. I think I saw the Ahsoka announcement first, and then I saw Acolyte and then Andor. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those, okay, all right. That's good news because we knew it was coming in 2022, and we knew that these things would be kind of rolling out here pretty quick. But it's also a little bit of a bummer because it's like, okay, are we going to see it in the 2022 or in 23? I just a little shaky on that one personally. So, But our first question is, how exciting do these production schedule reports really make us in light, especially of the past few weeks, as I just kind of alluded to a little bit? Caleb, will you go ahead and lead us there?
Probably even a month ago, this news would excite me and get me pumped. But after like the online cabal, is that a word?
It is now.
Cabal. After the online cabal that this past week,
I think that's Jewish.
2 weeks have been, I don't know if this is exciting me as much as it should. Only because I just want more info. Like, we know things are shooting. Right. We know things are in production. It's just, I don't know. I want to make sure that the things that we're getting next year, we're really going to be getting those. And I'm not necessarily worried about, okay, when are other things in the future going in production. I just want to make sure that next year is going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. If I'm going to be, I'm on the same starship, if I'm going to be honest, because you hear these and you want to be excited. Mm-hmm. And then you're kind of like, well, what the heck is going on? Like we talked a lot about last Tuesday. Yeah. And it just, I don't know. It's just one of those, okay, will it work out? I'm just going to hope that the ball is going to roll the right direction on these and just kind of see how it goes, because we know all these things have been in production for a while. So, there's that. Now, here's our second thing, is seeing a production titled Andor 03, I should say, odd to see on this report. Caleb, what do you
Super
thinking?
Odd. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it said Andor 02 or 02, whatever it is, because then, season 2 of Andor. I don't get the 3 being on it. That's just throwing me off. I don't know what to think of that, honestly.
I couldn't even begin. I mean, 03, aside from the year, I can't think of anything except maybe they're treating Rogue One as like a season 1. And now they're saying, okay, Andor, the series, is season 2, but that's kind of weird. And I don't think that they would do that.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
So beyond that, man, unless 03 is in reference to something we'll find out once Andor's actually on Disney Plus, and they've got some kind of code phrase or something. I mean, who knows, man? I mean, the way things go behind the scenes nowadays on really any given production, I mean, they still refer to Mandalorian as Huckleberry, you know, as the behind the scene tag. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they would continue doing that. It's like, everybody knows what you're filming. Just call it what it is.
Right.
Unless you're just really trying to make sure the paparazzi and the leakers and everything don't jump in there. For this, though, it just seems kind of random and off the wall, and I don't know. It's kind of one of these things that just fell into our lap from the unknown regions, and here we are.
Here we
don't know
are.
what else to
Kind
say
of like
about
Snoke.
it. Yeah,
kind of like Snoke. He just fell in our lap, and there we were.
and one of the few things that's ever, you know, just totally fallen out of nowhere that I've just been totally excited about. You know, it's Supreme Leader Snoke is something worth getting excited about. And if you're not excited about Supreme Leader Snoke, consider changing your ways and get excited about Supreme Leader Snoke, whether he's chopped into bits, wearing yellow, wearing black, whether he's a 4,000 foot hologram or not. Just get excited about Supreme, or if he's in a can with other Snokes, you know, like a pickle jar. Yeah. Just be excited he's there, because that's Snoke.
Yeah, fair enough. I know some people would highly disagree with you, though. Honestly,
well, they can go. I don't know.
Yeah, they can just go. They can just go.
They can just go.
Whatever. All right. Well, listen. You let us know what you think as far as the Acolyte and Ahsoka going in production, kind of middle of next year, 2022, and Andor 03 being listed on this announcement. Kind of weird. Kind of strange.
That's the year he graduated college.
There you go. Maybe. That's canon. Canon until proven otherwise. All right, next news piece, a big deal, a massive deal with this news piece. Ahsoka, the upcoming Disney Plus series, casts Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine Wren. I have personally never come across this actress before in a previous project, but I have to say, she looks the part. Everyone seems pumped and excited for this news, so I'm just going to hop on board and be pumped and excited for this news, because getting the character of Sabine Wren live action is exciting enough. I don't care who portrays the character, just the fact that she is being incorporated, brought in to play is absolute beauty. It is perfect. Great announcement. I can't wait to see it. DJ, what were your initial reactions to this casting announcement from Deadline?
My exact reaction was, well, I need to put my Clone Wars rewatch on hold and go rewatch Rebels, because that made me so excited. You know, when we got that weird, I don't even want to call it a tease, because it wasn't a tease. When everybody thought that Casca Reeves was going to be Sabine fighting out there with Bo-Katan in season 2 of Mando,
which would have been cool.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, that would have been great. But, you know, you compare Sasha Banks to this actress, Natasha Bordizzo. You compare those two, and you kind of think Natasha looks way more the part to be Sabine. Yeah. I loved the side-by-side image you had up just a moment ago on the screen for us, because, wow, you kind of look at the way, for me, it's the shape of their eyes, both the cartoon and the person. You know, they always say you can do a lot with this triangle between the eyes and the mouth. In fact, that's how Ewan McGregor was cast as Obi-Wan. He had the exact same shape. If you overlaid Ewan and Alec Guinness over the top of one another, they had that triangle that matched right there. And so kind of seeing similar things happen here with Natasha and, of course, the cartoon, which, you know, sometimes that's just pure coincidence, I guess, but I think they probably nailed it. Now, I've never seen anything with Natasha in it. I have no idea her career. I couldn't even begin to tell you if I've seen her elsewhere. But nonetheless, I'm beyond stoked, because it just tells us exactly what we're going to see in Ahsoka. And those two things for sure are Grand Admiral Thrawn, I should say, and Ezra freaking Bridger. I mean,
let's go.
Rebels ended up being a show that I did not think I was going to like. And by the time I was finished with it, oh man, for those of you who may have held out all this time, now's the time to stop holding out. I mean, honestly, the Disney Plus subscription for me was enough just to have the ability to watch Rebels. And I never seen them all before.
I mean, I'll go ahead and say it.
It's incredible.
I'll go ahead and say it. Rebels is better than Clone Wars. That's
Ooh,
my
I disagree.
personal opinion. That's where I always
Disagree.
will land, only because I think that Clone Wars definitely does it, but I think Rebels really dives deep into a lot of things that I could relate to at the time that I watched it, and I think that's why it just impacted me so heavily.
Well, I totally get that. I still have this grudge, I think, against Rebels I've never fully gotten over, even though I did just say what I said. I stand by exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do the hypocritical thing here. I'm just saying when Clone Wars was canceled, I was bitter for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when Rebels came out, I was like, forget this show, bump this. I don't want to watch this. This is stupid. Animation's different.
Yeah.
And then like a year went by and I don't even remember where I first read it. I think it was my little brother, Gavin, who's been on the show. He said,
I saw Gavin in the chat earlier. TK?
He was in the TK421, man. That's
What's
Gavin. And Miss Sunflower disagrees, I think, with you about
disagrees with me. Hey, that's fine. Disagree with me. That's cool.
And that's fine. Good. But my grudge was, I don't care. And then he says, hey, Ahsoka's in the show. And I'm like, what? And then I was in college, so I didn't have the ability to just sit down and watch the Disney Channel on Monday nights at 7. I either had something better to do or I was in class or who knows, Yeah. So when I finally got Disney Plus, it was the first time I'd watched all of Rebels. Now it's solidified up here as some of the best Star Wars.
Yeah, it is.
Even though I do hold a little bit of a grudge, but I disagree with you. I think you're nuts for saying that. You're nuts.
That's fine. That's okay. All good.
I'll let it be, but I still think this casting's fantastic.
Hey, there's people out there that agree with me now. They just might not be here in the chat or with me face to face, but there's people out there that agree with me.
Those Rebels fans, man, you don't want to cross them on a bad day.
No.
You just don't. They're not as bad as as some other parts of fandom. I won't name names, but some of those other parts of fandom can get a little rowdy, and those Rebels fans, well, they're Rebels fans. They're kind of it's in the name.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's go back to that Thrawn comment.
Okay.
This for me all but confirms that Thrawn is there.
100%.
Thrawn is going to be in Ahsoka, and this also for me is the easy segue to connect Ahsoka's storyline to The Mandalorian and to the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, you now have every single one of these shows that they're trying to set up in a Mandoverse has a Mandalorian. And I think that's just an easy segue to easily connect all of these fantastic series that they have in production there at Disney+. I think the only one, though, that's not going to connect is Acolyte and probably Kenobi. But I could see Andor connecting, and I think we speculated with that as far as it connecting to the Bad Batch, which in turn the Bad Batch is connecting to the Mandalorian, and we've speculated on that before, but we'll see. I just think that that's exciting for me, because this casting announcement, for me, it just confirms that, okay, they really are trying to build up this big story at the very end of this, with the characters that we've come to know and love in The Mandalorian, with the characters that we're going to get in the Book of Boba Fett, and eventually the characters that we'll get in Ahsoka as well.
No, I definitely agree that they're building towards something. And, I think that they all can connect to one another.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned how they may or may not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Acolyte will necessarily connect to anything else, because we know where that's taking place 100-ish, 200 years before Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of that High Republic era. So we'll see an end of the High Republic, and then we'll move into this Acolyte phase. And then that'll get us episodes 1, 2, Clone Wars 3, and then Kenobi. I think Kenobi could connect to Rebels if they do it right. I think that they would be willing to toy with the idea of making Ewan McGregor look a little more like Alec Guinness and have him do a live action Darth Maul fight. I think that that's a possibility.
Interesting.
Now I know that they're building towards the Vader stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to get the Vader thing right away. And it's going to be that final episode or second to last episode. They're going to have a cliffhanger or something, that's okay. That's my guess. Of course, then Kenobi will connect to something else. And then eventually we'll get to Solo, then Rogue One, on through the that, and then to Mandalorian, and that'll go to Book of Boba and Ahsoka probably,
Sure.
and it's all gonna somehow sprinkle in together and be this fantastic little thing as far as these goes, all these things go. So, but back to the point on Thrawn that you mentioned, yeah, there's no way we're not getting Thrawn,
Right.
and you don't bring in Sabine if you don't intend to bring in Ezra.
Correct.
And the crazy thing to me is that this Ahsoka series is a limited series.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're going to have a live action Rebels series after this?
I don't know. I know that's always been something speculated.
Yeah, and I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, I don't think Taylor Gray, who voiced Ezra, is in the running to portray Ezra again.
Mm-mm.
But I think it's Mina Massoud was
Correct.
The guy who's
Aladdin,
who's been like rumored or just nearly confirmed. So I'm just, we got to think about these things. Are they going to connect to that? Are they going to go somewhere forward? Not to mention Hayden Christensen's been confirmed to be in Ahsoka, or rumored. I don't know if it's confirmed.
By Hollywood Reporter. So
yeah, it's
pretty much confirmed.
Yeah, I can't ever remember who confirms what and who rumors what anymore.
Sure.
It all runs together, and I'm just like, that's fine. It runs together, but just, help me out, Star Wars. But regardless, I mean, everything you said so far, I think I'm pretty much on the same. If I'm not 100% certain of the same things you are, I'm on the same train track. Okay. I'm just a couple of train cars behind you, I think.
There you go. All right. Well, Miss Sunflower in the chat, Rosario Dawson confirmed it by tweeting something. Yeah, I believe that's 100% what happened. And then she deleted it. Yes. So yeah, and that always does inform you that it's pretty much confirmed. But regardless, we have a loaded cast, character potential for the Ahsoka show. But that's not all we have for Ahsoka this week. More information on Ahsoka was teased by none other than Dave Filoni. I've got a quote from Dave Filoni himself about this series. He said, quote, "It's thrilling, I gotta tell you. It's something you imagine doing for a long time, and then it's kind of startling when you're sitting there and now you have to do it. I thought of this adventure for Ahsoka for a long time, and it's interesting to see how it's evolved. Years ago, I never would have imagined that it was sprung from a branch of a tree that had anything to do with a guy like Din Djarin or a child that looks like Yoda. It's a great lesson for me on how, when you have other creatives like Jon Favreau, they can help lend such dimension and depth to what you're doing." DJ, just any initial thoughts or things to take away from those quotes from the writer, the producer, the creator of Ahsoka Tano, Mr. Dave Filoni?
I want to quote something I saw on Twitter from a guy who I follow, and he follows me at SA Coach. He said this: "In Dave we trust."
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't ever call him Dave. I always call him Filoni, because it feels weird to not call him Filoni, because everybody I've ever heard talk about Dave Filoni just says Filoni. Like, with that kind of a last name, you have to, But yeah, in Filoni, I put my trust on these kinds of things, and he drops Jon Favreau's name, and I think that's important. And the fact that he's had this character in the back of his mind, maybe not even in the back of his mind, in the front of his mind, for Ahsoka was we first saw her in 2008. You don't just see a character, there's development. So he's probably had a character like this as early as 2007. Mm-hmm. So we're now 14 years by the time this comes out, 15, 16 years since this character it was, first seen on screen. Yeah. I think that's 16 years worth of thinking that this guy's done on this character. And I think that we need to realize that's a lot of effort to put into one character, because even George Lucas didn't put probably 16 years worth of thought into, say, episode 4 that I have behind me right now. I mean, I don't think that would have been the case. So,
right. I
think it's important.
It's a wild journey that this Ahsoka character has gone on. I mean, initially, And I don't think I was necessarily as tuned in with the fandom back then. Fandom back then.
Wrong show.
Yeah, but back when Clone Wars came out, I've heard so many people say Ahsoka was not liked at all when she was first
no,
introduced.
she wasn't.
But you look at this full circle moment here where she's getting her own live action series. People can't stop talking about it, and there are people out there that view, like TK, like your brother, that view Ahsoka. Jeez, I'm stumbling over my words. Who view Ahsoka as
good.
Their favorite character and the best Jedi out there. I mean, that is pretty remarkable that we've gotten to that point.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. I was one of those people who couldn't stand Ahsoka. I hated Ahsoka when I was, 2008. I was a freshman in high school. So I'm still living off of the energy of 2005's Revenge of the Sith. So at that point in time, I was like, who is this? Why does Anakin have a Padawan? He's not even a master. I was just like, this is ridiculous. But man, I've said this on the show before, but to sit down every week, and watch the Clone Wars as a family, which I got to do.
Yeah, that
was big. So I got to fall in love with the character of Ahsoka, and not just Ahsoka, but people like Hondo Ohnaka, even Duchess Satine, and several other just side characters in Clone Wars. So by the time it's all said and done, you kind of look at it and you're like, oh wow, I really do care about this character quite a bit. And I've got the Ahsoka Tano Rebels Black Series figure, stowed away right now, and I've bought the Funko Pops for my brother, who he's trying to get all of the Ahsoka Funko Pops, and has most of them. No, and she's a cool character, and she's someone that people look up to, both boys and girls, men and women. She's a great character. She embodies something really cool. So you're right, full circle moment here, and and I'm a prime example of coming around to that character, as are probably thousands of people. I mean, she's somebody who, when you I've never been to Star Wars Celebration, but when you see images from Star Wars Celebration, there's always a group of people with the fulcrum looking, the white part of her face is drawn on their face. And even when Clone Wars came back for season 7, what did the clones do? They turned their helmets and painted them to look like Ahsoka. I mean, it wasn't just a welcome back to this one mission. It was a welcome back to fans saying, we hear you. We know you paint your face, to look like Ahsoka. I think it's beautiful. So as far as these comments from Filoni, dude, I can't be more excited.
Yeah.
I'm not going to jump up and down hardcore. I feel like I would Kenobi or just Ewan being back, or Hayden coming back as Anakin. But I'm still excited.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something to be excited about. And I say that, and watch when they eventually release the trailer and we do a trailer reaction for Mando Talk, I'll be,
oh, you will. You will.
But
no doubt.
I can't help it. And the moment, I'm just like, yes. Right now, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just stoked about it regardless. So
there you go.
We'll just kind of see how it keeps going, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, those of you out there, let us know what you think of Natasha Bordizzo being cast as Sabine Wren. I think we're giving it 2 thumbs up.
Totally forgot that's what we're
2 thumbs up on that
talking
one.
about.
But then also let us know what you think of Dave Filoni's comments on Ahsoka, what you think of the character as a whole. Let us know in the chat, comments, Discord. That link is in our description. You got tons of places to talk to us if you want to. All right, DJ, what's our next news piece? And this one is a doozy, let me tell you.
You are not wrong, sir.
Yeah.
Empire Magazine, in preparation for its The Book of Boba Fett featurette, got a couple of interesting quotes from none other than the president of Lucasfilm herself, Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh my gosh, Kathleen Kennedy.
She's speaking. She's saying stuff. Listen, that's the neon sign I'm sitting.
Well, I don't need to listen to it. I already know. I don't agree with what she says.
Wow. I've never wanted to give a voice a wedgie until now. And I'm not even a bully. Listen, this is what she's saying. Okay. She said, oh man, I got to back up for a second.
Yeah, I threw you off with my making fun of the fandom voice there.
Sometimes you got to make fun of the fandom. I mean, because sometimes the fandom's just absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, let me back up. All right, Kathleen Kennedy. She's given us some interesting quotes via Empire Magazine, okay, regarding future projects at Lucasfilm. One quote on Obi-Wan Kenobi and one quote on sequel trilogy characters, of which I have one behind me tonight.
There you go.
Ben Swolo. No, actually that one has a shirt on, so that's just Ben Solo. That's the one with the blue lightsaber, by the way. I love that pop. I had to hunt that one down. Yeah. But anyway, here's the quote on Obi-Wan, and then we'll give some takes on it just after that. All right. Here we go. The thing that was most exciting was being on the set and watching the two of them get excited. Who is them? Well, them is Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. She said they hadn't seen one another in a long time. I was surprised at just how incredibly emotional it was for each of them to find themselves back in these roles. Fun story. When I first read that quote, I thought that said robes. So I was like, wait a minute.
Fair enough.
I'm cool with it, but it's roles. It says roles. Goes on to say, and just realizing how important Star Wars was to each of them. It was the beginning of their careers, is kind of, she adds, as almost an afterthought of sorts. So, Caleb, I'll hit it with you first, and then you can send it back to me. What are your thoughts on this quote regarding Ewan and Hayden getting excited and just being emotionally, driven back into Star Wars? How do you feel about that?
Well, them being emotionally driven by this makes me happy for them, because that means they love being in the franchise, and that's exciting as a Star Wars fan, because you can always see that bleed into the screen. Like, you can tell when the portrayer really loves what they're doing, and this makes me excited that they really are going to give it their all when it comes to the Kenobi show. That's my first takeaway. Second takeaway was, if they're getting emotional, your boy here is definitely going to be getting emotional when we finally see Obi-Wan Kenobi on our television screens. So those are my big takeaways. What about you?
Oh, man, just to know that they're coming back is enough. And I've said that before. You've said that before. I think a lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But as far as these quotes go, just knowing, like you said, that they are just excited to be back, and just, I said this at the top of the show, just to be back in the saddle again. I mean, and that a truer statement can't really be said about these characters. It's Obi-Wan, it's Anakin. They're going to do their Obi-Wan and Anakin thing, whether Hayden is wearing what looks like a scuba ventilator, from those weird leaked images from several weeks ago, or if he's just Hayden with the long hair and the scar, or he's Darth Vader. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think it's exciting to know that they're back. And for me, just hearing what Kathy's saying about this, it almost makes up for Disney Plus Day being a bomb. For me, it does anyway. Like I said last week, my big issue was that Lucasfilm is not doing great at communicating what's happening. And I want that communication to get better as a fan. I want to know what's happening.
Yeah. But
at the same time, things like this, they will hold me over for a little while. I'll admit that. They'll hold me over for a little bit. But I still want to see some definitive, information, so to speak. But as far as this goes, it's exciting. That's my initial take on this. Okay, let's look at this quote on the sequel trilogy characters, unless you have something you'd like to add, Caleb.
Nope, let's get to that sequel quote.
And I was curious, you always wear the Rise of Skywalker shirt anytime we talk about sequel stuff.
I am so glad that you pointed that out. I am wearing my Rise of Skywalker tee every single episode that sequel trilogies are sequel characters, sequel trilogy is mentioned in the slightest. It's got to happen. I appreciate
totally
you noticing that, DJ.
Listen, anybody that wears a Star Wars shirt, you have to think, what kind of person is this?
Yeah.
And you can tell a lot about a Star Wars fan by the Star Wars shirt they wear. And just as a sidebar, I have a Princess Leia shirt, and it says, and it's great. It's her from the end of episode 4, and it's her saying, "The Force will be with you always." A great quote on there, of course, from episode 8. But I wore that in a grocery store one time, and 2 different people walked up to me in like the span of 10 minutes, said, "I like that shirt." Yep. So you can always tell a lot about a Star Wars fan from their shirt, their Star Wars shirt, I should say. But as far as sequel stuff goes, let's jump into this quote again from Mrs. Kathy Kennedy, I should say, because she's married. Quote on sequel trilogy characters: "Certainly, those are not characters we're going to forget." Tease Kennedy of that 3rd generation of Star Wars heroes. "They will live on, and those are conversations that are going on with the creative team as well." I would like to take this one first, if that's okay with you, Caleb.
Do it.
All right.
Do it.
Every time. First of all, I want to know who the creative team is. Mm-hmm. Who are those people? What are they talking about? Is it the story group? Is it Leslie Headland? Is it Michelle Rejwan? Is it just Kathy and Filoni? Is Doug Chang in the conversation? I don't, I'm naming off names of people from Lucasfilm. If you're unfamiliar with any of those names, go Google them. They're all legends. Okay. Or John Knoll, is he in the conversation even? I want to know who's on the creative team. I want to know what they're talking about. Is JJ Abrams in the conversation even? Is I want to know if Ryan Johnson's in the conversation. Heck, I want to know if Colin Trevorrow's in the conversation. I don't care. All I'm saying is I want to hear who is on this team first and foremost. Now, secondly, I'm glad that they're not going to just step away from these characters. They do need, I think this timeline needs to breathe a little bit before we move forward with that. I've come around to believing in these characters quite a bit. Most notably Finn. I've a big time come around to Finn. I've fallen in love with that character. I think he's fantastic, and John Boyega does a heck of a job playing Finn. So I would love to see more Finn and Poe and Rey and Chewbacca and BB-8 doing crazy things, and R2 and 3PO are still out there. Throw them in there. It's what we need to see, I think, somewhere down the road. So as far as this one little bit of quote goes, it's exciting. It makes me very happy to know that there's the chance is still there for these characters to return. And that's what I think I want to see from that the most. Caleb, what about you?
Well, I've said it before, so I'll stick to it. I think we are still 5 to 10 years away from getting sequel trilogy characters back, in my personal opinion, only because I think, again, this was tweeted out at Mando Talk on Twitter. Go check it out. I think that's the second time I've said it. I mentioned that, Star Wars, the big thing about Star Wars is passing it on to the next generation. What I would like for them to do is wait until the people that grew up with the sequel trilogy are old enough to pass on their love for Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo, you name them, to their kids, to the next generation. And I feel like waiting that 5 to 10 years would allow for that to happen. And on top of that, I think we're 5 to 10 years away from it because we have so many projects that are currently in production that are going to take up the time to where we can't even get to a project focused on the sequel trilogy characters. And I also want to say this. Yes, I want to see them come back. I cannot wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in some form, whether that be on film, whether that be just an appearance on a television series for an episode or two, or you name it. It's going to happen, and I would love to see it happen in animation form. I would love to see the story of Ben Solo, Luke Skywalker, their training and their development, whatever. I've mentioned that before on the show as well. However, I love that she's saying this, but I guess it's just still this rotten taste in my mouth from Disney Plus Day. We haven't finished the job with what we know we're getting. Like, can we just focus on that for right now, is my personal opinion. Like, yes, I'm glad that you're saying this. I can't wait to get the sequel trilogy characters back. But before, fans go crazy and we start speculating about everything, let's make sure that we knock out the projects that we currently have finalized. Let's make sure we knock them out the park before we throw this out in the universe and have all these fans start to get excited about seeing the sequel trilogy characters again, knowing though that we have so many projects that are coming before it to where we're not going to see these sequel trilogy characters for a hot minute. What do you think about that?
A lot of that I agree with.
Okay.
A lot of that I agree with, especially the part about there being an animated series with these characters. That really lends itself. Well, let me back up and say that again, I guess. That's really what helped the prequels. Episodes 2 and 3 and episode 1, 2, but really 2 and 3 really are built on quite a bit and are helped out a ton by the Clone Wars. And I think that the sequel trilogy could benefit from something similar.
I agree.
And however they do that, I don't think it needs to be a prequel in that sense. Like, I do want to see more Luke training Ben stuff. That stuff is superb. What they've already done with it in the comics. That stuff is incredible. And Ben's fall to the dark side is incredible. But I don't think I don't need to see that. I want to see a continuation. And if they decide to do that in animated form and not on the screen, that is okay. And I think, to an extent, that's what the plan was with Clone Wars. The difference is that Ahsoka is now live action and Hayden and Ewan are back.
Yeah.
The chances of us doing lightning doesn't always strike. It doesn't strike the same place twice. The old saying. So the chances of that happening with the sequel trilogy are slim. But I'm not opposed to that happening, and I would be okay with that happening. I just think if they do the animated thing, it probably just needs to stay the animated thing. Now, with that being said, I would rather see movies than I would another series. I like that we're getting all these series, and don't get me wrong, like you said, let's see what they do with what we have coming now, and then let's move on to that conversation then.
Yeah.
But I would rather see it in movies. And they say the creative team is what kind of Kathy referred to a second ago. Well, I say a second ago, what we read a second ago, there's got to be more than one creative team working on this stuff.
Oh, sure.
You got your Bad Batch folks, you got your Ahsoka folks, you got your Book of Boba Fett people, you got your Kenobi people, yada, 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 yada. You got all these different people. So that makes sense that there's a group who's like, your job, focus on the sequels. And they're going to have the direction. They're going to have the guide from Kathleen Kennedy and others, other executives and whoever else is there. But, they're going to guide that ship. And I want to see that ship go toward back to the movies. I want to go back to the movie theater and see Star Wars because I love waking up. I love waking up at 5 I really do. I love waking up at 5 a.m. and going to watch Mandalorian. It's, I'm looking forward to that Book of Boba Fett. I did it with Bad Batch, and I've done it with both seasons of Mandalorian and Bad Batch and Clone Wars. I did all of that, but I'm fine with that, but I would rather go to the movies.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather go to the movies.
I think I was starting to get on the Star Wars is now best fit for Disney Plus train there for a while. But then I went to see Dune, and I was reminded of what the cinematic experience was all about. And I think that is what Star Wars is truly about. But it's okay for us to, go back and forward on, film, television. That's called Star Wars adapting, which I have always voiced. Star Wars needs to adapt in order to continue.
It does.
So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see where these sequel trilogy characters pop back up. Like I've said before, it's going to eventually happen. It's just about the right timing, the right story, and I think the lessons have been learned about making sure that the character development, the character stories are there, but we'll see, and I will be there to see it, and I can't wait to see it, because I love all these characters that we got in the sequel trilogy, and I can't wait to get them some more. Okay, last thing, any final things that you want to mention about that before we move on?
Just that you mentioned character development, the Lego Star Wars holiday special that was released last year did a great job of fleshing out some of those characters, most notably Finn.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with people on that one. John Boyega deserved a little bit better in Rise of Skywalker. I don't like really saying that a lot because I don't want to put these hardcore, what do I want to say? These hardcore opinions out there too much, but in this case, I'm willing to, because we are talking about it. I want to see more of Poe. I want to see more of Finn. I think we did a great job with Rey. In fact, if we got a Poe and Finn show, yeah, dude, I'd be stoked. It'd be like Andor, but like 30 years later. I think it'd be fantastic. Or maybe not like Andor. I have no idea. That's my pitch.
Sure.
That's my pitch to Lucasfilm. Do a Poe and Finn show and make it like Andor, but don't make it like Andor. Like make it be its own thing, but like, like I'd love to watch that. And then Finn could be a Jedi and go do Jedi stuff with Poe, and BB-8 can be there, and it'd be a blast. So that's my pitch. But anyway, that's it for me on sequel stuff, or at least for this episode.
Sure. All right, our final news piece here: Brotherhood, the upcoming novel from Mike Chen, has revealed its cover art. The cover art is phenomenal. If you're on YouTube, you can now see a bit of that displayed, which features some old promotional images of Hayden Christensen as Anakin and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones. That's what these two promotional images are from, that era, Attack of the Clones. Mike Chen, he was quoted by saying the following: Brotherhood opens with both Anakin and Obi-Wan recently promoted to Jedi Knight and Jedi Council, yet feeling a bit uncertain about how to go about it, all while the war accelerates things so quickly that the Jedi charge into battle without a chance to really go, why are we doing this? Who are these clones for? For our two heroes, they're balancing their feelings on this while trying to live life without being tethered to one another. And the story examines how both of them realize that not only do they need each other, they're better Jedi and people when they're connected. This already sounds like a story that I want to check out. DJ, I know you are excited for this one.
First of all, 2 promotional images from Revenge of the Sith.
There you go.
Hayden, Ewan. I love showing these things off because they're just fun to own.
Sure.
But I mean, this right here is kind of what you need to know about my excitement right here. The fact that I'm holding these 2 things up is how excited I am about this. Yeah. Not to mention, over on my bookshelf, just right here to my left, is a little novel. You may have heard of it, Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Buy it, read it, love it, own it, reread it. Okay, that's all I have to say about Master Apprentice. Actually, I'm lying. I have a lot to say about that. The fact that we're getting something that is centered on this very specific period of time between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's going to be canon, should get everybody and their mother and their dog excited, because there's just not enough. I mean it when I say this. There's not enough Anakin and Obi-Wan. There just isn't. Now, you may hear me say that and go, what are you talking about? I mean, they literally fight each other in Revenge of the Sith. Sure. And they're together all the time in the Clone Wars. Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. And even I watched this Clone Wars episode the other day where Grievous he says something like, where you find Kenobi, usually Skywalker's not too far behind. And in this particular episode, yeah, that was really truly the case. And I love that that's kind of a toss in here in this synopsis, if you will, this summary, I guess, of where we're going with this Brotherhood story. Yeah. Also, I'm a sucker for promotional photos. I love the prequel promotional photos. So the fact that we are looking back in time at 2002, maybe that's what Andor 03 is referring to. It's just promotional photos from 2003. That's it. That's the whole thing. No, this promotional photo is enough for me because it's just too freaking cool. I was a sticker kid. I don't know were you a sticker kid, Kayla? Did you have stickers all the time?
Not really.
I'm still obsessed with stickers. I have a ton of stickers. I have stickers on the back of my laptop, and I love looking for neat stickers. And the fact that I had like coloring books with like promotional images from Attack of the Clones with not this particular one, but the fact that I had these stickers, I put them on everything. I had them on my bed frame, everywhere as a kid. So this is just really cool to me. Yeah. And honestly, this moment that they're kind of mentioning here, the fact that there's this battle they're having internally, how do we continue our relationship as not teacher and student, but as colleagues. And it's no secret, Obi-Wan looks at him as a brother, and up to a certain point in time, Anakin looks at him as a father, and that shifts by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith, and even the Clone Wars for that matter, in a lot of places, especially in later Clone Wars seasons. So to me, this is something that I'm really excited about, because we don't necessarily dive into the Clone Wars, but we do dive into this relationship. And that's something that's massively worth noting.
Yeah, and the official synopsis has been revealed, and I won't spend time reading that word for word, but big thing that pops off the screen here as I'm looking at it is Asajj Ventress. Her being back, her being incorporated into this story gets me really excited. And of course, that location that's referenced in Revenge of the Sith that I always struggle to pronounce. What is it, DJ?
Oh, Nemodia.
Yeah.
Nemodia.
Really cool that we're diving into that story that Obi-Wan mentioned about Anakin, or Anakin mentions about saving his life, and Obi-Wan's like that business doesn't count. Great. Yeah. I love that we're going to get some behind the scenes content for that, because it's going to change my perspective with Revenge of the Sith. When I watch, or when I see that scene, I'm going to go back to this brotherhood story, and so many other stories are going to run through my head as I'm watching Revenge of the Sith now. And I absolutely love that. That's one of the best things about being retrospective, especially with Star Wars. Because that's why I love Master and Apprentice so much, because you get to go back and see, when Claudia Gray was writing this, she had this moment from Phantom Menace in mind, little things like, or even this moment from Attack of the Clones and other crazy things. So yeah, that's all super fun. Asajj Ventress is the first thing I noticed when I saw this. No doubt. And I think I speculated when we announced a few weeks ago that this was a novel that was coming up soon, or we announced a slew of novels that day on that episode. But I said, yeah, this makes me think that Asajj Ventress is going to show up, because that's who's supposed to have given Anakin his scar on his eye. And we don't see that in Clone Wars, and we don't see it in Revenge of the Sith, obviously. So this is the place to put it. And I want that. I want to know how that happened. I think it'll happen. It needs to. Yeah. It absolutely needs to. And when it finally kind of happens and we read it, we're all going to be like, finally, it's not, the scar was a cool option that Lucas went with, and I'm glad he did, because it lends to where we're going with Anakin a little bit, but knowing where it comes from is even cooler in some way. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, that is our news pieces for this week here on Mando Talk. We had a lot of fun covering those, and we're going to turn it to you. What do you think of all the different news pieces that we hit today? A lot of great Star Wars content is coming. We got the Book of Boba Fett next month. It is rapidly approaching. And of course, on Thursdays, our Boba festivities, we are getting you and ourselves ready for the Book of Boba Fett, but we're going to pause on that this Thursday in observance of Thanksgiving. So again, happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. We're so thankful for you, and especially if you made it this far in the episode, that means that you are a diehard listener, and we can't thank you enough. DJ, thank you for being here yet again for another week. What would you like to share with our lovely audience before we get out of here? It's an interesting thing that we have Thanksgiving this week, more so than ever. I just saw a friend of mine a few hours ago, and he mentioned, I've been looking forward to this Thanksgiving more than I have any Thanksgiving. And here, if you're not listening, or if you're listening and you're not from the States, this really isn't for you. This is for Blue Harvest bricks. Yeah. But if you're listening to this and you kind of think, man, why would I be more excited about this Thanksgiving than previously? Last year kind of sucked. And the fact that we don't have to worry about that, this isn't Star Wars related at all. I'm just kind of on a normal soapbox here. This Thanksgiving, I think, is going to be special for a lot of people, and it may be difficult for a lot of people too. So cherish this Thursday, because I think this is going to be one of those Thanksgivings a lot of people will look back on one day and say, man, I'm so glad I had Thanksgiving 2021. And not only that, now back on the Star Wars soapbox, even though there's a lot of weird stuff happening behind the scenes that we're not sure about, we as Star Wars fans, we say this all the time on here, Caleb, you more than I,
say we are spoiled as Star Wars fans. So let's be thankful that we still get content for this thing that George Lucas didn't think would make it past opening weekend at the box office in May of 77. You know, we get to talk about this, we get to wear the merch, and we get to talk about all the fun stuff. So it's something really cool to be excited about. Very thankful that I get to be a Star Wars fan. It's something I enjoy talking about clearly. And it's something I know that Caleb enjoys talking about too, because as a certain Gungan once said, we Sapalos.
There he is. Hey, by the way, the package that DJ sent me.
I forgot I said that on the show.
The package that DJ sent me. We're twins now. He sent me a Jar Jar Binks Black Series figure, and I absolutely adore it. So thank you, DJ.
It was a lot of fun to I found that. I got to tell this real quick. I found it, and there were 20 of them on a shelf. I was like, I have to get 2. I got one, and I was like, I know Caleb loves Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Sending him a Jar Jar.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I was glad to. I'm usually a terrible gift giver, so I'm glad you like it.
I mean, anything with Star Wars on it, I tell people all the time, anything with Star Wars on it is a great gift.
Fair enough.
All right, well, let's get out of here. We hope that you have a blessed rest of your week. We hope all of our American listeners have a blessed Thanksgiving. Make sure that you acknowledge the things that you have been blessed with and be appreciative with.
And wear your stretchy pants.
Wear your stretchy pants. That is right. 100% on the money. All right, let's get out of here. And until next time, as always, we have spoken.